Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Please, can someone confirm that they can hear me? Please, can someone confirm if I'm audible? Please, I would like
Yeah, we
for.
can
I
hear
can.
you. Oh, I can hear you.
All right. So thank you very much for that. All right. So firstly, I want to say welcome to the first official class for the energy industry session of our mentorship program. This is the third and fourth quarter of 2024, and I'm happy to have all of us in class. I can see some of our mentors are already here with us. I can see Mr. Ayobami. I can see Engineer Etulam, who are already here with us. Thank you so much, sirs, for joining in. You're welcome. And I can see also a number of mentees have also joined in for the call. Please, if you know you have co-mentees that are not yet here on the call, please, you can kindly message them and tell them that the session has officially started. My name is Dennis Williams, and I'll be your moderator for today. Um, and our topic for today is fossil fuels, right? The fossil fuel industry. And I'm sure our mentors are set and ready to help us run through today's particular discourse. But before that, I would like to just read their profile so that you know the background of the mentors that we are receiving today. So our first mentor for today is Ayobami Dafe Iyiola. Ayobami is a barrister and solicitor, compliance and specialist PhD researcher, and law author. He has experience working in law firms, oil and gas, power and maritime companies in Nigeria and in the United Kingdom, where he gained in-depth knowledge in litigation and dispute resolution, commercial law and corporate practice slash corporate governance, contracting, regulatory compliance, and ISO internal audits, due diligence, and foreign investments regulations. He obtained law degrees from schools in Nigeria and England and was awarded several certificates from League schools in the United States, Yale University, contract law, University of Pennsylvania, compliance programs, and top ranked schools in the United Kingdoms. That is United College London, GDPR, King's College London, the Modern Judiciary, Coventry University, that's business strategy. He is a member of several organizations such as the British Nigeria Law Forum, International Association of Marine and Shipping Professionals, International Compliance Association, and the Nigeria Bar Association. He has some published work with the Lambert Inc., Germany, titled International Cooperation and Joint Ventures, legislation rather, that limits foreign investments on skills on Amazon and Journals of Applied Business and Economics, New York, titled Company Rights to Choose Its Nationality, amongst others. He is currently a legal consultant slash oil and gas, power, maritime, and cross-border transaction. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayobami, for joining us. You're welcome to today's class. Our second mentor that we are expecting for today is Miss Ngongo Obo. Miss Obo has well over a decade experience as a legal practitioner, holds a Bachelor's of Laws degree from the Benson Idahosa University, and was called to the Nigerian Bar in 2011, being awarded a first-class honors degree by the Council of Legal Education, Nigerian Law School, Egongon, holds a Masters in International. Sorry about that. Please, just a moment.
Like is muted when you upload it because it's usually on YouTube. Check the other side.
All right. Just to go on with reading Miss Ogo's profile. Um, all right, where was I? Nigerian Law School. Egongon holds a Masters of International Commerce Law, degrees, distinctions from the University of Sussex, United Kingdoms, and a Masters of Business Administration from Warwick Business School, University of Warwick, United Kingdoms. Egongon gained experience in dispute resolution, corporate and commercial law, mergers and acquisition, debt recovery, and energy law while she served as an associate in the legal firm of Paul Usaro and Co. and Alex legal practitioner. Egongon joined the legal team of Green Energy in January 2016 as an in-house legal counsel, and thereafter rose to the position of manager legal, where she oversees the legal teams, advising the company on the merits of legal issues pertaining to the operations of management of oil and gas assets, oil and gas commercial transaction, projects and corporate finance, and compliance issue. As company secretary, Egongo advises the board of Green Energy on corporate governance matters to ensure effective board practice in line with company corporate values and best practice. Egongo is an active member of the Association of International Petroleum Negotiation. I don't think she's yet here with us, but thank you so much, Ma, for always taking your time to contribute your quota to our mentorship program. And we'll be happy to have you in class. Our third mentor for today is Mr. Okeogene Ubehe. Okeogene is a top-tier oil, gas, and energy professional whose experience spans the upstream, midstream, and downstream sector. He is driven by academics, markets, and research, and work training experience, which is reflective in this professional experience and education. He graduated from the University of Science and Technology, where he started his career in mechanical engineering. This followed with several master's degrees in project management, subsea engineering, and an MBA from schools in the United Kingdom and Rwanda. His oil and gas career took flight when he joined the Tilion Subsea Limited as a subsea engineer and ROV pilot, working for upstream companies like Nigerian Petroleum Development Company and Total Energies. He then moved to a small oil and gas startup called MG Vargas Limited, that was then a major player in NOOC, agri land and offshore pipeline and crude oil infrastructure developments and operations in Bayelsa State. During this role, he led infrastructure growth projects and was the mastermind of the conception and construction of the world-class Mount Zion fabrication yard, currently sited in Transwoju waterfront in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. He later joined the crude evacuation arm of Midwestern Oil and Gas, which was then the most successful marginal field operator. The company called Umijini Pipelines Construction Limited was and is a well-structured crude transportation and terminal operations startup. He joined to head the field operation and maintenance team in Delta State to run the robust strategy put on ground by the promoters of that special purpose vehicle, which is still making waves today. He is currently the head technician of Energy Links Infrastructure, another novel crude evacuation storage and sales terminal infrastructure startup headquarters in Lagos but operating in Bonny. He is heavily involved in energy research, oil and gas field operation, optimization studies, and is consulting for many organizations in the energy sector. He has, in the past 2 years, ventured into renewable energy and electric vehicles as part of his commitment to energy transition, to greener, more sustainable, energy mining and consumption. He has mentored several young engineers, energy enthusiasts, and lectured management and energy-related programs virtually and in person from institutions and conferences globally. He is a registered engineer and entrepreneur, a fellow of several professional bodies, and energy broker engaged in project management, business optimization, crude evacuation studies, especially for startups and growing companies. You can reach him through his email, which is okeogene.ubehe@gmail.com. Thank you, Mr. Okeogene. It's always a pleasure having you with us for all our mentorship sessions. You have just been a tremendous contributing factor to our program, and we are happy to have you. Our last but not least on our mentors list for today is Mr. Etulam Adu. Mr. Etulam, MSc, MNSE, Oil and Gas Industry Expert, holds an executive MBA from the Quantic School of Business and Technology, Washington, D.C., USA, MSc in Petroleum Technology from Teesside University, UK, BEng in Petroleum Engineering from Gopkins University, Russia, 10 plus years of experience in upstream oil and gas production operations, energy industry experts, and global voice on international energy geopolitics, works with major IOCs in Nigeria. Mr. Etulam, we are happy to have you on call. Thank you so much for being here for yet another quarter, and we'll be happy to receive your lecture soon enough. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. That with the reading of our mentors profile, and we'll be going straight into the session. To not waste any further time, I would like to give the floor to the mentors we have here with us already. I can see Mr. Ayobami, and I can also see Mr. Etulam already on ground. So please, sir, starting with Mr. Ayobami, you have 20 minutes, sir, for your opening presentation and your discourse into today's topic, the fossil fuel industry. The floor is yours, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Oh, perfect. First, I must crave your indulgence and apologize ahead. I'm having quite a busy morning, actually. And so in case you see me off and on, please just forgive me, forgive my manners. Yeah, I mean, lots of work on my table. I have like 5 screens on at the moment, and also have some construction work done in my house. So. Yes, even though I've always preferred the energy expert technicians and engineers, Okeogene and Etulam, to go ahead, because they can always give you the nitty-gritty of the technicalities. But I felt it was quite important because this year we're starting the energy, this quarter, energy class, and it's always good to set a groundwork running, and what energy is, and also have a link with the legislations and the compliances and these resolutions, which we will have in subsequent weeks, by the way. Yes, so saying that out of the way, I don't know if Dennis, you can help me with I think I have a few slides, so would just run through it. Yeah.
All right, so that's fine.
Thank you. So basically, we'll just look at the introduction to energy, definition of the fossil fuel, the current trends in Nigeria, energy law and regulations, advantages, disadvantages, and of course, conclusion. I must state that while we're having experts in the field here, the engineers here, as a lawyer, it's always important that you always sought their knowledge on things. We call ourselves learned people, and I believe there are a lot of lawyers but we always need these people's expertise if you want to make your stay as energy lawyer successful. So over time, you build up a knowledge of it. Yes. One of my consulting firms last week, some young engineers are working on a CAD drawing, Moped grillage, and I was giving them some inputs, not because I'm an engineer, but because I've stayed, close to 14, 15 years in the industry. So I built a bit of an engineering background to that. So that's what lawyers, we will know a bit about everything, even though you might not know the nitty-gritty, but you need to rely on the experts to make your stay as a lawyer in the industry quite fruitful. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Maybe I should I think it's the issue with the slide. Just resend it. Just a minute, please. But while resending it, I also go ahead with the presentation. Apologies, everyone. I have it on a different system totally, so it's just sorry. A minute, apologies again. Yes, so I believe it can. Yes, so I've resent it again, Dennis. Okay, so going back to the presentation. So basically, when we talk about energy law, we're talking about renewables and non-renewables, basically. Renewable energy is one that, sources are they don't run out. It's self-replenishing, When we're talking about things like the wind, solar, tidal energy, they're always in the atmosphere. The wind never runs out. Yes, that's why it's called renewable. But non-renewable sources are sources that can be depleted. They can run out, and that's where fossil fuel comes into it. Fossil fuel is a non-renewable energy because it can run out, basically. And unfortunately, while we're exploring and mining these things, there's several things that happen to our environment and our climate. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and things like that. So yes, and yeah, we have energy laws that safeguard safeguard the practices of fossil fuel being used in that. You have several laws which would just have a go through basically in summary. Yeah. Of course, we have case law, we have statutes, we have rules, we have regulations, we have ethics, we have licenses, we have approvals, we even have taxation, being involved, and a lot of other things. So, just like I said, fossil fuel is another term for non-renewable energy, and fossil fuel is unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which school you stand. The good thing about being a lawyer is that you can take any stance as long as you have a logical way of backing up your presentation and in courts and in front of your clients, basically. Yeah. So, but the fact remains that fossil fuel is being used more around the nations than non-fossil fuel. Yes. Thank you, Dennis. I'm on the third slide, I believe, or fourth right now. Definition of fossil fuel. Yes. The next slide, please. Perfect. Yes. So, like I said, fossil fuel is still being used totally. Relied more than renewable energy right now, and they include things like coal, natural gas, we use to power vehicles and power generation, crude oil shales, bitumen, tar sands, and everything. So these are forms of sources of fossil fuel, basically. And how are they formed? They are formed by thousands of years of decomposed plants and animals. So it's just like you have. When you have a few days or few months, it turns into manure for your plants. But when you have thousands and thousands of years of decomposed plants and animals, it forms a source of an energy source of fossil fuel, basically. Yeah, and a side fact which was quite interesting is that humans also can use fossil fuel, but for that to happen, we would have to have lived over 200,000 years. So, and based on the current say on humans' existence, most people would say we have not lived up to 200,000 years yet. So maybe, so the fossil fuel using today most likely stuff from a human. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. So water, also there's a small debate on if water is renewable or not renewable. And forms of liquid, you know. So most people believe that yes, when it evaporates, it comes back as rain. So they believe that since that means it can be renewable. But some people also point out the fact that there's some fresh water in some places where you have droughts. You hear some of some rivers or some lakes or something that have, you know, virtually gone into extinction. You know, so that means technically it was not renewed. So there's still a whole debate on if it's water is renewable or not renewable. You know, but I believe most people believe that it is renewable. So yeah, since we always have water around, but like I said, it's a dispute. You can take you as lawyers can always choose where you stand and back up your points. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes. So fossil fuel forms, like I said, the bulk of energy use in Nigeria and also around the world. You know, you hear about most countries having a deadline. You know, we're always having climate conferences here and there. There was a Paris Agreement, I think, some years ago. And the EU has a 2035 deadline to change most of their fossil fuel non-renewables into renewables. You know, so we're looking at more of electric vehicles in the UK. I mean, in the UK, I tend to use a hybrid actually. So you have seen more renewable electric vehicles and other forms of even now. I mean, jets have been tested with the use of renewable energy and other things. So Nigeria too also has a 2060 goal. National Council of Climate Change will tell you that it's a 2060 goal, and which will have zero emission of in the atmosphere. But the fact remains is that Nigeria needs, I think, like $400 million every year to meet that goal, and which I would say we're not really. I mean, we're not spending the monies right now to meet that goal. But hey, 2060 is still there, yeah. So yeah, everybody, you know, we have generators, so we also generate power in our home. So fossil fuel basically, and the use of it still forms the bulk of energy used in Nigeria and in the world. Why countries are trying to get into renewables is still a ongoing concern to people, basically, and to governments. Yes. In Nigeria, of course, we have sweet crude. The engineers will tell you more. So Nigeria's crude is in good demand, and unfortunately, it's still the bulk of our earnings, I mean, in Nigeria, basically. So that means we rely so much on our crude oil, and so the question we should ask ourselves is: do we truly want to move, you know, into other forms of energy, or do we want to help our economy grow by other things like agriculture or technology and everything? But for now, most of our earnings, especially our export earnings and our FX, is on fossil fuel. So fossil fuel runs our economy basically right now. Yes, and the access of fossil fuel, of course, it has to do with a lot of drilling and mining of the earth, and we know what happens in Niger Delta. We talk about cleaning up of the environment, and so yes, there's insecurity as a result of our fossil fuel exploration, kidnapping, bunkering, and a lot of other things. So that's what's current trend in Nigeria right now. Of course, fuel scarcity. I stepped out late. I'm currently in Lagos, so I stepped out to get fuel, and 920 I bought yesterday, and I would almost not have believed my driver. He had gone to buy it. I'm like, dude, I started lying, you know. So that's it. So we have soaring prices of petroleum products and gas too. It went up a bit. I mean, a bit, and and we have refinery dramas, Dangote refinery dramas, and We have, so that's it. So these are the current trends in Nigeria. So basically, while we earn a lot from crude, we also have a lot of issues concerning our fossil fuel in Nigeria. Next slide, please. Yes, so we have the laws and regulations that regulates fossil fuel, and a lot of licensing, a lot of approvals, a lot of fines, and a lot of sanctions. 2014, I moved from being a barrister, appearing in courts in Nigeria and England, and I went in-house 2014. And so the last 10 years, I've been dealing a lot with a lot of licensing, approvals, and fines and sanctions. So time that I had over 120 licensing approvals I was looking at every day. So that's it. So a lot of licensing approvals required from NNPC, Nigerian upstream. We have the PIA now, so Nigerian upstream, the midstream and downstream regulatory authority. If you're doing a lot of offshore drilling, then you have to consider the master, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and State Agency. They to have a whole lot of certificates and approvals, and and the funny part is this that you see, for example, a former DPR now any PLC having given a license, and they must also giving a similar license. They tell you that do an unconditional survey. You do it on the vessel, on the rigs from any PLC. They also do it on any massa also. So it's we have the duplication of licenses and approvals. So what in the energy industry, we do a lot of regulatory and laws. The Electricity Act, power, and a lot of other things like that. So yes, as lawyers, we should keep we should have a strong knowledge of all these approvals, licenses. Approval licenses, most of the time, you build up your appetite more in practice, but at least the laws, you can get yourself familiar with it. So that's quite important. Next slide, please. Yes, the fossil fuel advantages, yes. Still, it generates a larger amount of energy, which is used to power industries and our homes at a single location. Most people still see it as cost effective because technology is still cheaper than the current trend of renewables technology still being tested and being finalized and financed, basically. Yes. It can be transported easily through tanks and pipelines. There are a lot of research and developments that's been dedicated towards having it safer and less consumption. Like now, some vehicles now consume less fuel than the same model that was happened last 5 years and thereabouts. So yes, of course, it can be easily found and used around. So yes, next slide, please. So yeah, disadvantages. A lot of pollution to the environment, farms and lakes and fishes and aquatic habitat has been eroded by all this. Their finite resources means that they can be replaced. So sooner or later, you see wells dry up, basically, even though the engineers will tell you that before the well dry up, they still go back there and do their magic and still have it running for a bit of more years. So yes, but it's a finite resources, basically. Yeah. The damage to the earth and cause pollution, yes. They can be unsafe and prone to accidents. Yes, you see here fire accidents, fuel and all that. Yes, so they are more prone to accidents. Yes, production creates byproducts. Flaring of gas, for example. Climate issues and everything. Yes, prices fluctuate greatly. Yes, we're living witness to that, and of course, it can also go through a dangerous process. Deep offshore, those that go there, some people say they get paid so much because of the environment in which they do the drilling. So I know Etulan and Organic makes a lot of money off that. currently. Yeah. So yes, it's dangerous and of course it's high paying. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yes. So the question now is Nigeria has set targets, to move from fossil fuel or to reduce our fossil fuel and the harmful on how harmful it is in environments. But the fact remains is this: successful governments and current governments don't seem to pay attention to these set targets. The fact remains is that Nigeria over relies so much on our fossil fuel. So the question now is this: do we stop drilling and get Nigeria economy backwards and get our citizens having less money to use, less money for infrastructure development? So it's a no matter the divide you belong, the fact remains is that while yes, we need to move to more renewable forms of energy, we also need this, to drive our economy. That's the reality of it. So yes, we have set targets in our legislations. We have a lot of things in pipeline on documents, but in reality, little or no is being done to move the from non-renewable to renewable. So, and honestly, it's not Nigeria alone; it's around the world. For example, the Germans had to open their coal mine during the Russian-Ukraine conflict because they were not receiving enough gas through the pipeline from Russia. So you say, so most countries have to choose the hard way to keep their country afloat. So yes, that's the reality we live in, and maybe when Nigeria start diversifying our economy, we'll see more movements being done in moving from fossil fuel to renewables. Yeah, but we can't discount the usefulness of fossil fuel for Nigeria, for us, and for our economy. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for that presentation. That was a very nice presentation. We really appreciate your time and the effort you put into making that slide on behalf for this class. So thank you very much, sir. All right, we'll be going to our next mentor for today. We'll be giving the floor to Mr. Etulam. Mr. Etulam, please, the floor is yours. Please, we would like to hear from you on your perspective for today's topic. Please, sir, you have 20 minutes, sir.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Okay, I don't know if you can hear me.
Morning, sir.
Okay, thank you, Iola, Barrister, and would I say Chief Justice of Nigeria, for that wonderful presentation to add up. Am I clear, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, please. Do you have my slides? Because I sent earlier before to Sophie.
Okay. All right, so let me kindly look at that, sir. Look through that, sir.
Okay, so should have hinted me. Let me see if I can add up. I'd sent it earlier, so I was expecting that you have it already. Okay, let me. I'm adding up to the chart, but it's very large. Let me use the one I converted to PDF. So if you check the chart, okay.
Okay. I don't seem to find. I can't seem to find the slide, sir.
Hold on. I'm through the chart you can download. So if you check this meeting chart, I'm adding up the PDF version. The PowerPoint is a bit large. I'd sent it earlier to Sophie, and she reminded me. I sent again. I reminded her about this. It's fine. On the chart is uploading. Okay, so check the chart. You have the PDF version. This meeting chart now.
Yes, sir. I can see it.
So you can download it from there. Or you want me to share my own screen?
No worries about that, sir. I will share it right now.
Okay. I can cancel the PowerPoint so that it doesn't take too much of time in case of. Okay, great. All right. I once again thank all the mentors and the mentees that have availed themselves. I want to thank Yola also being around, and I don't know if Okoegene is on. Every other mentor that is here. I've been part of JIIPC for a while on the fossil fuel industry. I'm an engineer. My profile maybe is not updated. I will recently have to update my profile to you guys so that you can be able to have a full scope of me. Apparently, currently I work with ENI International as a production engineer in the Middle East. I'm someone that is faced one on one with oil and gas daily as part of my life for the past 10 years plus, going to 14 years now. I've been in the oil and gas field specifically and also internationally. I do consult for Coleman Research in energy matters and also contribute a lot in Nigerian newspapers like Naramatics, Business Day, talking about a lot of things in terms of oil and gas related issues. So for today specifically, we are looking at the fossil fuel industry. Um, Allah has already given definitions about the fossil fuel industries in terms of what fossil fuels are and their non-renewable sources. So we can go to the next slide, please. Okay. So generally, fossil fuels, like I've said before, are non-renewable energy sources. The main fossil fuels that are in consideration are coal, natural gas, and the crude oil, which is petroleum. These are the three fundamental fossil fuels that is being used globally. And in terms of formation, I will not delve too much again in definition and all of that because it's going to be a repetition of the previous slides. In presentation. So if we look at from the 1900s till late today, we discovered that we have increased consumption of global fossil fuel has doubled in since 1980. A bit like from if you consider from the early 1900s, we've been see the effect of industrialization in the use of coal. We migrated now into the oil and now gas is into play. So coal consumption apparently in the world is falling and in many parts of the world, but oil and gas is still growing quickly. Some of the dynamics, if you look from India and China, and they've been using fossil fuels, particularly with coal for a long while. I'm going to give a brief of global perspective and in terms of the fossil fuel industry and while I delve specifically into Nigeria. As of 2023, Nigerian electricity consumption primarily relies on fossil fuels. So if you look at it generally, in the rural areas, we know we understand with the use of biomass and then no much access to gas and other fossil fuels. But generally, in terms of urbanized areas, we see that we rely more on petrol, we rely more on natural gas for power generation. So if you look at our energy cycle in the energy mix in Nigeria, you will see that we are generating about 32.3 terawatts from gas, making up to almost 80% of the total electricity output in Nigeria. So if you want to consider the importance of fossil fuels, it's so much within our lives every day. What you put on, the clothes you put on, the perfumes and all of these are byproducts from petroleum, which is a fossil fuel. So in terms of fossil fuels, also account for 75% of global greenhouse emissions according to the United Nations. Fossil fuels are non-renewable, and the fact that they emit a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And this is a concern in terms of the energy transition to move away from the fossil fuels. There are questions about how we will survive in terms of the future if we abandon fossil fuels, which we'll answer in the sections with the students. For me, just take note that fossil fuels are non-renewable means that they are finite. Finite means that they are going to be they're going to be used up. I mean, it's sorry, rather infinite, rather that they are going to be used up. I mean, so coal, natural gas, and crude oil, petroleum. I mean, when you burn gas, when you burn oil, it's going to be used up. stop. And the world is concerned in the fact that we are going to run out of oil and gas. And oil and gas, coal are formed over millions of years ago. The earth is stayed for a long while, and planktons, when they depreciate and under heat and temperature of high degrees and also pressure, we have hydrocarbons being formed, and this is being drilled in the earth crust to be able to bring them to the surface and processed for our general energy use. Let's go to the next slide, please. I'll be a bit fast. The slides are long, so let me just wrap it very fast. So why fossil fuels generally provide the energy that we require to propel our cars, our businesses, keep our lights on in our homes today? Like you're seeing that lights on. I'm very sure in Port Harcourt here, the gas turbines that are used generated for the power holding company generate electricity which I use. I have an inverter kind of with some solar input, but I find it very difficult in terms of energy density. When we talk of energy density, in terms of the amount of energy being generated uh, for a particular energy source. So, I mean, if I use the inverter or solar, it's a bit of I need to economize, turn off some certain things to be able to keep up. But with the power supply from the natural grid, which is gas based, I mean, I'm full. I can turn on my TV, turn everything I want, which is very convenient in terms of durability and in terms of energy density. So even today, oil, coal, and gas have about 80% of our energy needs. This is something that is important. And how do we leave these resources and move to renewables? So fossil fuels, we are kept to global. I mean, fossil fuels, we are key to global industrialization and rising prosperity. Nigeria, we know we are an oil exporting country, a gas exporting country. We have more than 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in reserves and about more than 37 billion barrels of crude oil. So fossil fuels have and continue to play a dominant role in global energy systems. This is very important, and this is why I mean we have fossil fuels in running around and trying to boost the economy of the world. And please, the next slide. Okay, so what's the future for fossil fuels? There's a question about this thing. So according to the Energy Transition Commission in Copenhagen, is for us to meet a 2% degree objective in terms of temperature, coupled with the 2015 Paris Agreement, where we are going to, at industrial scale, temperatures are going to be below 1.5 degrees centigrade. So a sharp and immediate fall in coal. We need to stop the use of coal. We need to have there's supposed to be a peak decline for oil, and then no little growth in natural gas. This is, I mean, if we want to have this in the future to be able to move transitions, then these things have to be in place for us to meet up the targets for 2 degrees centigrade. So fossil fuel will still provide 60% of energy in 2040 compared to 85% today, 85% today, and but the pattern of use will change away from coal and towards gas and increasingly concentrated industries like we have heavy transport, aviation, which are areas that to decarbonize has become very, very difficult in terms of the energy density that is required to run these facilities. Let's go to the next slide, please. So, in terms of the global energy mix, if we look at it compared with what we have in global consumption in fractions, I put up some data. We could see that all fossil fuels generally, you see oil having about 31.7% compared to other renewables, which are less than 14.6%. So you could see natural gas about 24.3%, and coal is still a big guy there with 26.5%. If you break down hydroelectricity and renewables, you will see that in terms of in the renewables aspect, this is 2023 data in terms of global energy consumption. You could see that hydroelectric 43.9%, wind 25%, solar 17.9%, geothermal has a full show about 10%, biofuels 2.6%. So if you compare that, if you see the graph in consumption by shares, in terms of the energy that is being used, you will discover that look at the Middle East, 6.1%. If you look at the US, about 7.1. So this general data, in fact, if you can you blow it a bit? It's just zoom it out a bit for the downward slide. Okay, a bit more. Just zoom out a bit. Okay. So generally, Africa has, in terms of energy consumption, lower compared to the world average in terms of energy consumption. So if you look at the graph for this, the global energy mix, okay, please blow it out again. Zoom out. Yeah, fine. So global energy consumption, if you look at from 1900s down to 2020s, you will see coal is still growing, and you see some stability post 2000. See in terms of the growth rate has decreased. Growth still in oil. Renewables are picking up, and you see from the late 200s to 2000 and up, it's a rapid growth of the renewables. For top countries that are consuming fossil fuels, you will have to actually see that coal, natural gas, and oil. You will see the likes of China. You see the likes of India and Saudi Arabia, and the mix of Russia, the US. These are major consumers of fossil fuel. So if you even compare ourselves with the likes of the developed world, you see that they have been propelled by fossil fuel, and currently the shift to renewables being in focus, like the EU Green Deal, which is up, and all of that. So China and the US are responsible for half of global fossil fuel consumption, and fossil fuels account for over 80%. We've said it before. And while primary energy consumption in Africa amounted to only nearly about 20.87 exajoules in 2023. So we are really in Africa, Nigeria, we are still consuming less. And so we have a leverage to be able to use our fossil fuels to our own advantage. Next slide, please. We will go further. Let's just be fast. And this is still part of the global energy mix. You can have time to go about this. I will not delve on this again. So today, Africa and South Africa have very low levels of energy demand relating to the size of their population. So this is a energy consumption per capita. And if you look for Africa, we are still small in terms of our energy consumption per capita. So for other developed countries, you will see that very much large in terms of what energy is being used. Go down, please. The next slide, please. Up. Okay. Same also here. I was able to capture in terms of Africa generally, the African energy mix. You could see also in terms of traditional biomass becoming very large. This is specifically for rural areas, and you see that we have not actually evolved into use gratefully the fossil fuels in capital to be able to fast track our development. So you could see the presence of oil, natural gas taking much, hydro is still there doing. So biomass is big, wood burning and all of this biomass is big because of rural areas. So we could see a large proportion of oil and natural gas also involved. So natural gas specifically contributes 26% to Africa's energy demand growth between 2000 to 2021. So Africa accounts for just 6% of global energy use and less than 3% of global energy-related carbon dioxide emissions. So, I mean, when you want to say, oh, we need to decarbonize and Africa, we should stop using fossil fuels, I mean, we are not contributing much. We still have opportunity to be able to develop these resources for our own development. So significant greenfield spending, we need about 375 billion US dollars over the next decade will be required for natural gas as a transition fuel. So in Africa, so a lot of money to be spent for us to be able to have a balance for energy access, affordability, and reliability to be able to move into other phases. So let's go further. So if you look at this in terms of energy, can you blow out a bit? So zoom again. Okay. So in Africa, South Africa, and Southern Central America, the average amount of energy consumed per person stood around 30 gigajoules. This figure, if you want to see what 1 gigajoule of energy could do in terms of cleaning your TV at home, washing machine, and this is just basically, I just gave this picture to be able to describe basically for your own understanding. You can have time to go about this. So Nigeria consumed per capita was for energy is about 0.8 tons per TOA in terms of exajoules in 2020, more than 40% of higher than the average for sub-Saharan Africa. So we are a bit better so for compared to other poorer countries. So electricity consumption per capita is relatively low compared to neighboring countries and reached about 2.2 kilowatt per hour in 2020. So it means that 1.8 times lower than the average of sub-Saharan Africa. So we're still, in terms of energy consumption per capita, is still low. Let's go down. Please, the next slide. Okay, so generally, I've just talked about general energy mix, and I will go delve into specifics of the fossil fuels. Specifically, one important one is the oil and gas, particularly oil. If we just briefly run through in technicalities about the oil and gas value chain, you see that normally you will do an exploration either offshore or onshore, use of seismic to be able to discover the oil and gas deposits. And when that is done, we go into production. Production is where you can be able to, from the wells, bring up the gas or oil. In the oil chain is the oil and the associated gas with oil, which is going to be either fled or used for power generation and also other functions in the facility. So production is field-based, then it's transported to oil processing facilities. Transportation is going to be through pipelines to onshore terminals and through offshore by big vessels. If it's an offshore facility, you have what we call an FPSO, a floating production and storage and offloading vessel facility, whereby both production goes on there and also offloading to nearby facilities that will be able to have ship anchor and they'll be loaded and transported to international buyers. Nigeria exports to Europe and Asia our crude oil. So then you will have the refining after being transported and stored is being refined. And now we have the Dangote refinery that's been on and trying to create a disbalance within the global market, particularly with African vision. And sourcing for crude is becoming the problem for the refineries in Nigeria, particularly with Dangote. So these are things that are very critical. And you have the marketing and the chemicals for your byproducts from oil you use to make wax, you use of petrol, jet a fuel, gasoline, and kerosene, and all of this. So upstream aspect has to do with production and exploration, midstream transportation and storage, and the refining, marketing, and chemicals has to do with the downstream oil and gas business. For the natural gas value chain, you will see both processing, transportation, and marketing for chemicals. So I've already explained this. You can go down to the next one, which, okay. So global oil production, if we look at it, we have, if I got this from the US Energy Administration information. So if you look at this, Saudi Arabia produce a lot of crude oil in terms of 9.7 million barrels per day. So if you look at this is much. Nigeria, I mean, we are no longer in the top 10. I mean, if you see now, we are within the range of 1.3 to 1.4 million barrels. And the president, as at June, they were claiming that we have about 1.6 million barrels in production. But when OPEC released the reports as of early this month or late last month, discovered that it's around 1.34 to 1.4 million barrels per day in terms of production. We understand the dynamics of how oil production has been cut short because of oil theft, lack of infrastructure, divestment from oil companies, international IOCs. Yesterday, Owando just signed a buy-off of 100% shares of the Nigerian Oil Company in London, and this is a very good deal for indigenous players. But we will see how this will go in terms of how we will use our capacity to be able to improve our production. Can we go further, please? Just go. Hello. Okay. This you will go later. Just these are in terms of reserves, the big oil reserves in terms of African countries. Nigeria, we know it's is a big player in terms of our global. Our oil reserves, 36 billion barrels. These were figures for 2019, but as of now, we around 37 point something billion barrels of crude oil. So we have a lot to be able to compare with production, and this is going to be supposed to be used to generate wealth. We've operated the oil and gas industry for more than 40 years, and the benefits are very slim in terms of what profits it has brought to the masses. So these are things that energy engineers and energy lawyers need to put into place. That what of what value has the oil and gas been to nations like us? We have what we call the Dutch syndrome or Dutch disease, whereby resource-based rich countries fail to exploit and use their resources for the benefit of the masses economically. Okay, let's go further. So same oil production in terms of in Nigeria specifically from 1998 to 20. So you will see we've been going down. We've been going down, and a lot has to be put in place. As of January 2024, Nigeria oil reserves still about 37.5 billion. I've said it before. Nigeria is largest in Africa, ninth in the world according to OPEC data in 2022. So we exported about $52.1 billion worth of oil in 2022. I mean, where's this money? What are they using it for? I mean, these are the things we look at. Oil export from Nigeria mostly into India, Spain, United States, and Netherlands, as of OPEC data. Generally, some dynamics are changing currently. So let's go further. Can we jump to gas, please? Okay, natural gas. I've explained the natural gas value chain before already in terms of the, when I was explaining the oil value chain, you could also see from the gas wells, you remove water, dehydration, and oil, and it's fled, it's vented. You see, fled gas is a big problem. And we are, the government has put in place over the years the gas monetization program and with the flare reduction and also utilization in terms of for companies that are producing. So if you look at it, gas processing plants, so LNG and storage used for consumer for power generation, industrial use, housing, and all of these. So in production, transmission, and distribution, you will see the gas value chain there. And let's go further. So proving natural gas reserves globally, you will see Nigeria has more than 200 trillion cubic feet of proven gas reserves. If you see compare, you see Russia, Iran, Qatar, all of these are big players in terms of the reserves of natural gas. Let's go down. Okay. So top producers, same US, Russia, uh, Saudi Arabia, in natural gas production. Nigeria is a bit part of it, but if you look at it compared to the rest of major players, you see that we are still behind. Okay, move further. The next slide. So African reserves, same again. You see Nigeria, Algeria, all of the Senegal, just Congo. If you look at it, Nigeria still top. So we are blessed. We are really blessed with resources, and at what advantage have we used this for? So let's next slide, please. Natural gas in Nigeria. If you see in 2023, gas export amounted to some 29.7 billion standard cubic feet of natural gas exported. A total of about 2.5 trillion cubic feet of gas was produced. These details I got from the NUPRC. So you can go through this natural later and get for more in depth about this. Next slide, please. Okay, so one critical aspect in terms of gas is gas to power, which is in terms of electricity generation in Nigeria. You could see the in terms of contracting issues from exploration to production, processing, as well as power generation, gas mispricing issues. You have some the green aspect you will see in terms of positives and also for issues in terms of oil theft for the orange side of it. So well from production to processing, you have wellhead and trade theft. You have for gas pricing, inadequate infrastructures that for utilities and from generation to transmission. You have in terms of completion delays from transmission also to distribution. You have transmission losses in terms of infrastructure. So the current government is trying to see that there have been some restructuring in terms of the distribution and also consumption of oil, I mean, gas in terms of the markets, the power markets. I'm not a power market expert. If Okengene was here, he would be able to explain more better because from the last experiences, and also Yola maybe can put more better in terms of the gas to power market. So this is just a slide to tell you what's happening in terms of the power generation in electricity generation in terms of gas in Nigeria. So just down, we will just dive to coal. Just move to coal. So yeah, coal, it's a same processes in terms of the value chain from mining to processing, and in terms of that inventory, rail, and the ports, ships to the market, and it's being used. So if you go through that, you will see this is the value chain for chain. Got this from McKinsey, and it's you have to see that generally. I mean, these fossil fuels continue to play key roles in the nation. Africa is really blessed. Ghana, and you could, if you go to the next slide, you will be surprised that Nigeria is doing a lot about coal, but you don't know much. You will not hear too much about this. Go to the next slide, please. So in countries where the share of energy consumption is more of coal specific, South Africa, because of a lot of coal power plants, relies a lot on electricity generation from coal. You could see China also, India, these are top consumers of coal because of electricity. So the focus is a bit shifting from coal to gas in terms of this. So Nigeria, we just have about 3 coal plants, but in terms of power generation, but I don't know much about what they do, what is the specifics, but very little we have from coal. Enugu has a lot of deposit from coal. So let's to the next slide, please. So I discovered that Nigeria is part of the top 10 coal producing countries in the world as at 2023. If you look at in terms of 240, about 240 million tons, we discovered that Nigeria is, and I was a bit surprised that we are part of the top coal producing countries, and some details about that need to be put forward. So we are blessed with coal, not just only other fossil fuels. So we are all balanced in the fossil fuel industry. Can we go further, please? So coal to power, same you will see in South Africa is still topping with 18 power stations that are powered with coal. 4 in Morocco, 3 in Zimbabwe. Nigeria has 3. I tried to discover details about that a bit. So you could see that coal has a big influence in terms of power generation in Africa. Okay, please the next slide. So in conclusion, fossil fuels are at the heart of the climate crisis. It's been pushed from the developed nations and also developing nations that we transit from fossil fuels to renewables. And this is for the fact that fossil fuel accounts a lot, over 75% of global emissions. And for we to be able to achieve net zero by 2050, there is a push that nations should decarbonize and reduce the use of fossil fuels in power generation, in transportation, and every other use. So despite the slowdown in growth, global oil demand is still forecasted to be about 3.2 million barrels per day, higher in 2030 than in 2023. Unless stronger policy measures are implemented or changes in behavior take hold. So this is what IEA, International Energy Agency, is saying. So if we continue to say, yes, we have to decarbonize, we have to decarbonize, I mean, both in the developing nations and also the developed nations, if there is no change of behavior on how we use fossil fuel, in terms of transportation, in terms of daily lives, then I mean it's going to take longer. So eliminate fossil fuel methane emissions for immediate climate impact and improve corporate social responsibility. This is going to be tough. It's not just going to be an overnight scenario. So the regulation of oil and gas industry to improve infrastructure standards, practices related to methane venting and flaring. Flare issues are very, very serious. We have been facing a lot of divestment with IOCs. They have been pushed by shareholders. For instance, in Shell and last, I think in 2022, parts of the shareholders had told Shell board that they need to stop investment in some certain carbon intensive regions of their portfolios, like in Nigeria and other places that are still emitting in terms of production operament in doing their operations. So this is area that African nations, oil and gas, fossil rich nations will look into. We want to see a decarbonized operation. Countries like Norway has been expert in this. Norway has a $2.1 trillion of in their sovereign investment fund. Over the years, they've been operating oil and gas and generating funds for the nation, and they use hydro a lot and reduce footprint in oil and gas operations. So the use of technology, carbon capture and storage, direct air capture in production, it will help us in the future. So today, without fossil fuels, the electricity grids will experience widespread blackouts, affecting food, essential goods, and deliveries. This has happened in places like California in the USA. Chevron is relocating their headquarters from California to Texas because of the so much renewable focused government in the US. So for Nigeria, we have fossil fuels. For me, I'm a fossil fuel based man, but I also support renewables. And the fact is this, that as much as the world exists, fossil fuel remains important. And for those that are involved in extraction and production of fossil fuel, there is a necessity and the need to be able to decarbonize and run a sustainable business. So technically, I just wanted to say that as energy law students, you have a technical background in terms of what the fossil fuel is all about and some geopolitical context, as well as the markets and also what fossil fuels are. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Etulam. That was very insightful. Right, the slides were very detailed. They showed the breakdown of the major fossil fuel products and their distribution across the world. So I'm sure our mentees were taking notes of the different breakdowns and distributions generally across the world in Nigeria and the role Nigeria is playing in the fossil fuel industry. So lastly, we'll be having our third mentor on the call for today to have his presentation. That's Mr. Okeogene. Please, sir, you have 20 minutes for your presentation. I'll be sharing your slides right about now. Welcome, sir.
All right, my people, thank you. Thank you for having me. Williams, thank you, JIIPCC, and thank you, students. I want to thank my fellow mentors as well. Tulan, great job you have done. Great job you have done. Edafe, also, I want to thank you for barrister, busy barrister. Thank you for making our time also to be here. The students are very, very lucky to have very experienced people come through to share the wealth of knowledge. And I think that's the value that JIIPCC puts on the table. You will not regret this experience you are having. And the beautiful thing about it is that we, the mentors, were also available to also handhold you, because most of you are new to the energy industry, handhold you and see how we can help you, understand this industry a bit more and become like us, consultants and people that understand this industry very well. So you've seen my profile already. Okeogene is my name. I'm an oil and gas energy a professional and a consultant also now in crude evacuation and crude sales, particularly in field development. Have some experience as well in the energy generation. So we'll be talking about fossil fuel today, and I will run you through some of the things I've captured in my slide. My other mentors have done very well to give you deep dive into certain areas. So I'll just run through to touch on the areas that has legal experiences, because I know most of us are lawyers here who want to understand how we can mature into the industry. So I'll focus more on that rather than the operations or technical part, which my colleagues have talked about also. I also want to thank Dafe also for talking about regulatory compliance, which is an area he has the experience. This is very, very important. And this is where lawyers come. He is a lawyer, so he knows the areas where lawyers are very, very important in making their mark. So, Williams, you can put my slide up. I'll appreciate it. Let me just run through, okay? All right, excellent. We're talking about the fossil fuel industry. Again, a lot has been said. Just keep going. Third slide. A lot has been talked about Nigeria, the global energy industry. An overview of fossil fuel. This has been talked about already. Fossil fuel has to do, in our own case as Nigeria, are very rich in fossil fuel, in crude oil, in gas, and in coal. And like Etulan said, we're a blessed country. By all standards, we are blessed, and we will continue to remain blessed, inshallah, right? But a lot of things we've not done well in harnessing our resources. We as engineering people, we are dealing with a lot of backlog, a lot of things we are doing on the back as engineers to harness this menace of oil theft, and generally how we can use how we can become better in managing the natural resources that God has given to us. Next slide, please. All right, overview of fossil fuel. I know the other mentors have talked about it, how petroleum is formed, how coal is formed. This is millions of years of transformation of algae, natural living things, plants, and this with many years of pressure underneath the ground, pressure formations, different agitation of the floor of the ground surrounding brings about the formation of both petroleum and coal, as well as gas. Next slide, please. All right, so overview of fossil fuel. I've talked about coal already. The picture on the far top left talks about coal. That's what coal looks like. Some of us will wonder what coal looks like. So that is the raw form of coal. However, in using coal for our train or many other applications like power plant application that is being used in Europe, they have to melt it, right? Have it in liquid form. In fact, some people have been extracting coal gas from this and be using in power plants. Second picture talks about fossil fuel extraction and refinery. Third picture on your right talks about that's gas. That's how gas is being transported and sold to Europe. Power generation is the one on the lower left. Crude oil on the middle one, and then oil that is being used for running vehicles. These are all byproducts of fossil fuel, and fossil fuel plays a very important part in our lives, right? Next slide, please. I know one of the mentors mentioned chemicals and products from petrochemicals, even some of the clothes we are wearing, the plastic we have around us. These are all byproducts from fossil fuel. So it's not an aspect of the economy that we can take lightly at all. In terms of importance to the Nigerian economy, we all know that fossil fuel, crude oil, gas plays a very, very important role. In the past, we used to be about 10 globally for both oil and for gas, right? At the moment, I don't know. Infrastructure for pushing out the product from the point of production to the point of sale has not allowed us to take that position. And my fellow mentors have talked about that a lot. Next slide, please. Importance of our economy. I don't want to belittle on this already. This is so important to the Nigerian economy. We have the likes of Shell, Mobil, Eni that has been talked about, Owando, Total Energy, Chevron, NNPC, LNG, so many other agencies that has to do with oil refinery and how we can get it to the market. And somewhere there, I will see one of all your names, all of you that are coming up. You will also have a part to play in Nigerian oil and gas sector, in the energy sector, how the fossil fuel can be taken out. So I want you to envisage that your name is going to be here, your company is going to be here, and you're going to put your energy to give your best to ensure you understand this industry and also make your mark. My name is also there somewhere already, knowing that I consult for some of these companies also to help them to harness their product as well as sell it out to nations of the world that require it, please. Next slide, please. Fossil fuel consumption, I've talked about this already. Consumption is increasing as the population of the world, population of Nigeria increases. The demand for energy is increasing. In fact, the demand is increasing so fast that fossil fuel is not even able to meet the needs of the entire nations of the world. Renewable is coming up, which we'll look at as we go ahead. But again, as the demand is going up, you know the law of demand and supply. When demand is high, when demand is high and supply doesn't meet the demand, what happens? Prices goes up, and we'll see that as we go ahead. So next slide, please. Because the demand is very high globally, global consumption, again, let's look at it in terms of fossil fuel generally. What are the constituents of fossil fuel? We have wood, we have coal, we have oil, natural gas, and then other new energy sources that are coming out again. Biofuels we talked about, and a few other things that my mentors talked about again. But this chart is just trying to give us an idea of what percentage they play as the years go by. We're yet to get to 2020, 2050, but there's an energy transition that is happening for the past 20 years where we find ourselves. Coal is transiting, crude oil is transiting, natural gas is transiting. You can see we're going towards more of natural gas and towards more newer form of energy if you look at my chart very well. So we're almost done with coal, which is at the lower part. We're having oil at a steady rate that is going, but oil is also going to decline in the future based on the energy transition plan that we have. So natural gas and the new age energy will also play a huge role. So we as a nation, or we as technocrats or professionals in the industry, we are also moving with this trend. And you also have to move from your knowledge of coal and hydrocarbons. You now begin to move towards renewable energy to ensure your skill becomes relevant as to go ahead. That is why we as a pressure body, we're trying to pressure Nigeria to see how we can also move towards renewable. We have all the oil, we have all the gas. Today we're relevant. How do we stay relevant in the future? So we also need to invest in renewable so that we also stay relevant. We'll talk about that as we go ahead. Next slide, please. I've talked about the global demand that is increasing, and the likes of China, likes of Russia. China is a first world country now with massive industries, massive number of people. So the demand for energy is very high from that part. If you look at the chart we have there, China is one of the highest, that has the highest demand for energy. And that energy means fossil fuel, because most of the energy we use in the world is from coal, is from gas and coal. Other Asian nations also, they have large numbers. When you have a large number of people, when you have a large number of industry, that means that the demand for energy is much, right? So before we are now coming to Africa and the rest of the world. So China as a country is demanding much because of the numbers, because of their industries, Asia, and then Africa, as we see that from this chart. So next slide, please. All right. Okay. I spoke about, thank you, Williams. I spoke about demand and supply, right? The demand is getting high, and then the supply costs. The supply is not as much as that because the entire world, they are struggling to bring out their fossil fuels, and we're now augmenting with renewable energy. So where there's a huge demand and the supply is not meeting up, the cost of the product goes up, and that's what we are seeing. If you look at the chart we have, around 2022, when we had the COVID issue, demand for energy dropped to almost zero. And at that point, the price also dropped. But as time goes up to 2023 and 2024, we can see the demand is increasing. And also, if you look at the per barrel cost of crude oil, is also increasing. And that has a good impact and negative impact. Good impact to countries like Nigeria, where that are churning out a lot of crude that we want to sell. That's more revenue for us, right? But for countries that are buying it already, the demand is much on them. So both instances affect different nations differently. Next slide, please. All right, in terms of value chain for fossil fuel, we've talked about natural gas. Natural gas is an offshoot of the fossil fuel. So this is a very important part that we need to take note of. Natural gas has an upstream component, a midstream component, and downstream component. By upstream, we mean exploration and production. By midstream, we mean the transportation and storage. And on the downstream, we mean refining and retail market. So when we produce it from the upstream, we'll transport it through the midstream, we sell it through the downstream. So you need to understand this as energy professionals. Yeah? As lawyers, you need to have a mental picture of how these fossil fuels are generated, and then how they are sold in the market, and then the legal issues that can come out of it, so that you can understand. One of the things we talked about, byproducts. If you look clearly, you will see medications and pharmaceutical products that come out of gas, come out of crude. These are some of the things we also need to have a clear understanding on how they work. Let's go to the next slide where we'll talk about crude. So the first one is natural gas. That is the first product you get when you're drilling into the ground, right? When you're drilling into the soil, gas comes out first before you start getting before you can start getting oil. So again, just to talk about the gas value chain, so you know what gases can be used for. Gas can be used for processing plants. Gas can be used for power. Gas can be used for LNG, for compression stations, for different things. But again, the source is from the ground. The next slide, please. All right, that's for gas value chain. Again, I've talked about this already. Different areas where the gases can be used, where they come from, how we process it. Power generation, where it can be used for power transmission, distribution, and then consumption, which is our houses. We all pay for this product, though we get it free, but we need a lot of infrastructure to get this product to our warehouse, so we have to pay so much for it. I've talked about the costing already. Next slide, please. Coal value chain, just like crude and gas, coal also has its own processing, where you have to get it as a natural product, you process it, and then you utilize it. One of the mentors Atulan talked about, Germany getting back to their coal plant again. Most nations in Europe, they went back to their coal plants when COVID-19 struck and there was no gas and there was no crude oil sale globally. So the energy transition mix had some major setbacks because of COVID-19. There was no energy. And as of today, we're still trying to reset that already bid. The pace at which renewable energy would have gotten to today, it has not happened. And that's to our advantage as Nigerians, as people that are primarily dependent on crude oil, on fossil fuel as our source of revenue. So we have the next 20 years window to harness our potentials, to harness our energy reservoirs, right? In terms of gas, in terms of crude oil, in terms of coal, because in Enugu State, we have a lot of coal that has not even been scratched. In short, Enugu State is called the coal state because there's a lot of coal there that we have not been used. And we as engineers, we want value to come back to Nigeria, even if the so-called fossil fuels are unsafe for our use. We want to develop new technologies with which they will now be used as clean energy. That is one of the research that has been going on now. Coal is being melted to get coal gas, and that gas is very, very clean energy that we can use. So that gives us time to transit from our fossil fuel into more renewable energy. Next page, please. All right, the impact of fossil fuel on health and climate. A lot of people, mentors have talked about it. Fossil fuel contain what we call hydrocarbon, hydrogen and carbon, right? Hydrogen is the element that we require to burn, to get energy, to get heat, yeah? But the carbon element in it is not required. We don't need it for anything, right? In our own use here. So that carbon is what goes into the environment and forms and joins or combines with oxygen to form CO or CO2, which is detrimental to the environment, detrimental to our health, and that's what we don't want. So several technologies are being looked at, one of them called carbon capture, where at the point of production of carbon, we want to capture it, we want to store it, we want to put it into the ground where oil and gas is drilled from, so that we can store it so it doesn't damage the ozone layer. As you are aware from the picture on the right-hand side, the emission of carbon, right? Emission of gas, when we're flaring gas flaring, those black suits that you see in Rivers State, in other states, when you flare them from power stations, you see that it is carbon that is being released into the environment, and it has a detrimental impact. So nations of the world, safety agencies, activists in the group, they are all pushing against fossil fuel because the impact is getting more and more remarkable, and it's affecting global warming. In Nigeria, in the UK, and everywhere we find ourselves, we begin to see the impact of global warming. I'm currently in the UK as we speak, so the environment is changing. The place is becoming too cold very quickly, and that's the impact of global warming. And we are looking to reduce that, because they said in the next 1-2 degrees impact of social global warming will have a huge impact on livelihood, on water bodies, which we don't want to happen. Next slide, please. Okay, I've talked about the impact of fossil fuel already on health, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, and several other gases. And in terms of countries that emit, Africa has done little damage to the ozone layer. Meanwhile, we are getting the most impact. We are being flogged for what we don't know about. Our own impact to global warming is very, very small, like you can see from the pie chart we have on the right-hand side. But again, because we don't have strong nations and strong voice speaking for us, the whip is whipping us a bit more, which lawyers would know more about. That is why we are developing those young lawyers like yourself, so you can be those activists. You can go and speak for us, because our own consumption, the oil that we even generate in Nigeria, we take it to Europe to sell. So when we sell it to them, they consume it, they damage the ozone layer, and the impact is coming back to us. And they don't want us to explore and use our fossil fuel, which I think is not right. So that's a conversation for another day. But again, these are aspects that you as young lawyers begin to research, begin to know more on. You can join World Bank and join the voices that can go out and talk about these things and give Africa the leverage so that we can actually harness and use most of the fossil fuel we have. Next slide, please. We've talked about this already. Beyond the environmental, there's also the political impact of fossil fuel. A lot of fights we are seeing globally now has to do with fossil fuel. There's a lot of quiet, they will call them a Cold War, quiet war that is happening in most nations of the world. It's impacting on different nations. In short, Russia and Ukraine today, they are fighting because of a region that has a lot of oil. These are some of the impact that fossil fuel can cause. In the Niger Delta as well, we're having a lot of spill on the environment, global warming, and also the agitation in Niger Delta. All this are related to fossil fuel, which we have not managed very well. And these are some of the burning issues that lawyers can look into as you grow. So as you're looking to specialize as young lawyers that are coming, these are the areas that can help you to develop, areas you can look into, areas you can research, or you can talk to mentors about to develop the niche skills that are required for you to be known in these areas. Next slide, please. I want us to pay attention to this part, right? Legal areas in the fossil fuel industry where, as young lawyers, we can develop our own niche. I've talked about that again. So there are complex legal landscapes surrounding fossil fuel extraction, fossil fuel production, and distribution, which has brought maturity to the energy industry, right? So yourself as a lawyer or the legal industry has supported the energy industry in growing. And I need you to know that energy industry, oil and gas, we cannot be what we are. We cannot produce without lawyers supporting us. And that's where you need to understand what role you will play as an energy lawyer, what role you can play as an activist, what role you can play as a contract lawyer in terms of regulatory compliance, which Dafe talked about, right? He said he had 150 regulatory issues he's trying to deal with as a lawyer. That shows you he's very busy. The man is not even able to go to the salon to go and call. You see, he's very busy. He's afro and all that. He's very busy in the office working. So why not say, I want to be one of your tutors. I want to support you, sir. As a young lawyer, support him as a lawyer. You'll find that so much will pass through you in a short time. And in 5 years, 10 years, like he has used 12 to 15 years to become an expert, you need only 10 years because you have a mentor holding hand, because you have JIIPCC that has provided this kind of a opportunity for you to know more. So you are coming out of the university with fresh knowledge, with fresh direction on where you are going to. I don't think there's anything more beautiful. I don't think anything that we can more beautiful. So we need to really continue to thank JIIPCC for this opportunity, right? It is very, very critical. So as lawyers, we need to look into regulatory compliance, contract laws, litigation and disputes that are arising from energy-related issues in the fields where we work. We see NUPRC recently talked about 1,050 legal cases that they are dealing with at the moment. Can you imagine that? NUPRC came publicly to say they have 1,050 legal cases they are dealing with today. And who are the people that are going to deal with this issue? Lawyers, right? So there's a huge demand for lawyers and the legal profession in managing energy as things are going. That means there's huge need for most of you that's on this call. So there's nothing stopping you from going beyond. So I just captured an Institute of Energy Law, which also supports the energy industry, fossil fuel business, energy law beyond the law school. Most of you might be in law school or law students and going to law school. Beyond the law school, there's a lot to do in energy business, and you must focus on that. Is very, very key. Next slide, please. Opportunities for the legal profession. I've talked about that already. I've talked about this. Somebody's asking for GDP, and I'll focus on this one now. All right, so opportunity for legal profession in the fossil fuel industry. I've talked about that already. You can play advisory roles to most companies. Right, companies are looking for people to advise, and that's where Dafe comes in. He's in the senior management where you advise companies on legal issues and what to go in energy companies. Environmental law is also another one that you need to look into. We know the Ogoni issue, Kensaro Wiwa, and a lot of issues. Lawyers are also backing them up where Shell has been asked to pay a certain amount of money to see how they can support the farmers, the fishermen, that their oil spill has impacted, and it's lawyers that are managing and managing all these issues. Another area I've highlighted there is mergers and acquisition in oil and gas, heading of legal aspect of acquisition and joint ventures, dispute resolution, corporate governance and compliance, the human rights violation issues. These are all legal issues where all of you can find a niche and see how you can grow, or you support those existing companies that can actually make an impact in the energy industry. I'll cite a few cases. One of them we're talking about currently in the UK in Surrex Council. where there's been an unlawful granting permission for oil production without considering climate impact. And this has made the council to sue certain companies already. And like I said, it's lawyers that are handling this issue. I've talked about the Ogoni one and Shell as well. These are all areas where lawyers are very, very useful. And these cases highlight the environmental and human impact of fossil fuel extraction only in Nigeria. And that's a platform for you to explore your trade. Next slide, please. So what is the offshoot of the fossil fuel industry is the renewable energy industry. And one of the things I must say on this call is that most of the skills that are required in the renewable energy space, they always come from the fossil fuel industry. So we need to be also mindful of this to harness the skills that we have and see how we can, as energy transits from fossil fuel into renewable energy, our skills to also transit, and we should refine ourselves. We should have that growth mindset. We should go for training so that we can understand how our skills can continue to be useful even as we go into renewable energy in terms of solar, in terms of battery technology, electric vehicles, and a lot more of them. So we must be mindful of this to ensure that our skills are transferable into the next phase of the energy sector. Next slide, please. My other colleague talked about the energy mix, energy parity. I wouldn't want to go into this, but again, fossil fuel is still very, very important because the energy parity from other renewable is very, very small, right? That gives that chunk to the fossil fuel industry. So fossil fuel will still be there. People are already saying 20, 30 years, but I believe fossil fuel will still be there for another 50 to 100 years. So our skill will also be very, very important. So let's not be afraid at all. Even with AI coming into play and all that, the fossil fuel business will still be something that is very, very viable. Next slide, please. All right, an emerging integrated solution where fossil fuel and renewable energy will be very important. I've touched on this already. Energy demand is increasing, so fossil fuel is important as well as renewable energy. So there will be a mix of energy that has to do both with fossil fuel as well as renewable energy. And that is the future of energy. That's the future where we are going. So we need to align ourselves as lawyers, as engineers, so that we are useful also in the next phase of the energy, which is the integrated energy solution. This involves gas generation, energy transmission, electric vehicles, selling product overseas for renewable battery technology, and all this. So we need to get ourselves, harness our skills in contracting, harness our skills in advisory to see how we can advise into the new generation and see how we can keep our firms and keep us being relevant in the industry. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the key part. If you did not take it, if the takeaway from this call is that we must have the big picture. We must have the big picture. Where are we today? Fossil fuel is what we have today, but where are we going tomorrow is renewable energy. So we must ensure that we understand this. We must understand the skills that are important. We must understand that company must comply, and it's you as lawyers that will help to teach them what compliance is. Not much was said about PIA on this call, but the PIA is very, very important. Most of you know the Petroleum Industry Act that is helping in the transitioning from fossil fuel onto the next ford. So what has that done? It has created a framework of which the energy industry can be managed. So if you understand that PIA, you are able to bamboozle people in court, right? To say, no, this is where it's supposed to be. This is not where we are. And that's why we have a lot of legal cases now. That's why we have a lot of compliance issues that have been dealt with. These problems are not going away. In short, the problems are waiting for the next mind, next people that can think very well and bring viable solutions. So the world is waiting for you, right? Nigeria is waiting for you, right? Your industries are waiting for you. The legal firm is waiting for you to come and have a better understanding of how things are going. Have that big picture understanding that your skill is not just a small skill by the corner, but you have a lot to play, not just to your school, not just to where you find yourself, but to Nigeria as an economy on how you can provide. So your continuous development is very, very key. And that's why we are here today. JIIPCC have created a platform for us as mentors to come and showcase the knowledge we have, to tell you what to expect as the industry goes forward. And you must have that understanding. You must have that big picture. You must have a trajectory in your career to say, this is where I want to go. I want to be an energy lawyer. I want to stay in compliance. I want to stay in contracting. I want to stay in dispute resolution. I want to be a consultant. So the future is bright for you. You need to have a clear picture. We are here to support you, but you need to know where you are going to. And if you have any confusion, knock on the door of JIIPCC, knock on the door of your mentors, and we are here to support you, to help you, guide you through this process so that you can be a viable tool in the future for Nigeria, for Africa, and for the world in terms of energy. right? I think this is my last slide. Can you go to the next lesson? All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, JIIPCC, for the opportunity. Thank you, fellow mentors. And I do hope that the students in their presentation, they should be able to showcase something similar to this, and will always provide that support to channel you as you grow in your professional development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okergene. That was a very wonderful presentation from your end, and we thank you for your time and the effort you put into your slides to show all the breakdowns. We also thank all our mentors for also taking out their time to also showcase their presentation. You could see mentees that, you know, a lot of work was done into putting that slides together. And we also requested from your end that you put in your presentation together, and both groups were able to do that. So now we want to take presentation from mentees. So please, can we kindly take presentation from mentees? The group one presenter, please. The time for you to make presentation is now. Please, you have 7 minutes for your presentation. Try as much as possible to stick to time, right? So that we don't overshoot on the time for this class. So group one presenter, please, you can share your screen and start your presentation. All right, thank you so much. Sorry, I did not get your name, but you can go ahead and start the presentation. You have 7 minutes.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Blessing.
Yes, my name is Blessing, and I'll be taking this presentation with Moyo Adebe. I'm so sure he's on the call. So I will just go through the slide, and thank you to our mentors, and thank you, JIIPCC. It has been a wonderful session. Yeah, so I'll be talking about the evolution of fossil fuel, a global perspective. I'll be talking about the history, the importance, the future of fossil fuel in our economics. So first of all, I want to introduce what fossil fuel is, as our mentors has actually done justice to what it is. So I'll be starting by saying that fossil fuel is one of nature's best gifts to humanity, and it helps us grow, develop, and live an efficient life. As we've always been told now, that it arises from decomposing plants and other organisms that are buried beneath the layer of the sedimented rocks, and it has taken millennia to grow into what we know as fossil fuel. So I'll be talking about what fossil fuel itself is. Fossil fuels are natural resources formed from ancient organic matters that include plants and animals. They are vital energy sources powering industries and daily lives, consisting mainly of carbon and hydrogen. And of course, the types of fossil fuels: coal, we have oil, and we have natural gas. So I'll be talking about the economic importance of fossil fuel. For the global revenue, we have fossil fuel has actually impacted our economics about 3 trillion, and for employment has also impacted our economics in 10 million, because it has created employment opportunities. And for investment, we have 500 billions. And for energy consumption, we have 80% of energy consumption, and carbon emission, we have 60 billion. And for the GDP contribution, we have 5%, which is a great number. And for types of fossil fuel, we said we have the coal, we have oil, and we have natural gas. The coal is the solid form that we should be aware of. The oil is a liquid form, and the natural gas is the clean burning fossil, and it's mainly for heating. The oil, it's used for the vehicle and industries, and also the coal is used for electricity production and steel manufacturing. So of course, that takes us to how fossil fuel has been through time. Fossil fuel originated from the ancient organic matters, as we were told by our mentors, and with my own research, I got to know that the fossil fuel, the fuel we use now, it has been generated millions years ago. Like, it has from decomposed matters. So apparently it has been from organic matters buried and transformed over millions of years. So that's the origin of fossil fuel. And this process creates coal, it creates oil, and it also creates natural gas. And these things are essential for energy. So we also have industrial revolution impact. The industrial revolution marked significant rise in fossil fuel consumption, leading to advancements in transportation and manufacturing, and also have the modern day utilization. Today's fossil fuel remain the primary energy source despite environmental concern. Its extensive use impacts climate change, prompting the shift to renewable energy. And that's the main thing we've been talking about ever since morning, that the natural gas, and because of the effects of the old fossil fuel, we're trying to shift from the fossil fuel to renewable energy, because as we've been told, fossil fuels are not renewable. They go out of time, and it takes time to replenish itself. So we have the pros and cons of the fossil fuel in the industry. Of course, it is reliable, and it provides a scalable energy source. It's also the availability of fossil fuel reduce production costs, of course, and it leads to increase in profits for industry and for the economy to grow. Fossil fuel also facilitates innovation in transportation, enabling the movement of goods and people quickly and effectively. So we also have the cons. That's the disadvantages of fossil fuel in the industry. It has led to significant environmental degradation and pollution, because just imagine in the case where the CO2 goes into the air, it causes the air pollution, and those are the reasons why we want to reduce the greenhouse emission and want to move to the renewable energy, which are mentors are like we can still be in the fossil fuel and for like years. That's which I'm also believing it's possible. So it's also reliance on fossil fuel has contributed to the climate change, of course, resulting in extreme weather pattern and threatening ecosystem. The finite nature of fossil fuel raises concern about energy security and the sustainability of industry dependence on them. It also causes health issues because of the air pollution, and it increases care cost and reduction in. So we also have the fossil fuel in politics. Fossil fuel resources significantly impacts global political dynamics, and often dictates relationships among nations. Yeah, because of fossil fuel, we've been able to have connection with every other nations and even nation of the world. The tension, conflicts of oil and gas reserves leads to geopolitical tension, as we know. Because of oil, we have to fight each other, that this country is producing and we are not getting it. All those things will cause conflicts between and among the nation. Political influence. Country rich in fossil fuel often have unprecedented influence on global politics, shaping economic stability. So, and that takes me to the strategic resources of fossil fuel. Energy independence and resources control are central issues in modern conflicts, driving nations to strategic partnership. So, and of course, Moya will be taking over from here. We'll be talking about the environmental concern addressing fossil fuel consumption. Moya, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, we can hear you, Moyo.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So I'll be talking about the environmental concerns now. I will be addressing fossil fuel consumptions. And of course, we'll be talking about the positive solutions and negative impacts. So I'll start from the positive solutions. And the first one is that transitioning to renewable energy sources reduces greenhouse gas emissions. And from a study, I learned that burning fossil fuel releases large amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And we all know how dangerous that is to the climate. And then the energy conservation measures can lead to lower energy costs and decreased reliance on fossil fuel, improving sustainability. So that means that if we conserve energy, we will increase sustainability on like the climate and how we use power. And then awareness and advocacy can drive policy changes. So instead of saying we want to so we can strike a balance, we can like create like positive policies and just regulate something of regulation that can promote better like fossil fuel practices and like stricter regulations, so that there will be a balance between the consumption of fossil fuel and renewable energy. So now I'm going to talk about the negative impacts. I think a lot of people have said that already, from the mentors to the main presenter. So I think the major one is just the effect on climate change and like its effect on like pollution, like environmental pollution. So now we're going to talk about like transition to renewable energy. It's something that's common of late. Like we all know that fossil fuel is the ancient source of power, but now we are now more informed of like we're now more informed, and a lot of nations and economics are trying to transition to renewable energy. So now I'm going to talk about the importance of transition to renewable energy. So the first thing is the ongoing shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy source is critical. It's for combating climate change. I mentioned that already. Electricity generation from solar, wind, and hydroelectric power plays a pivotal role in this transformation. And then the economical impact. Fossil fuel dependency has led to severe environmental impacts, including air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, in some nations, in some countries, they are not able to do much of like agricultural work because of the environmental impacts of like extraction of fossil fuel resources. And then, so another thing we'll talk about is the economic benefits. So it's here we said that transition to renewable energy brings economic benefits such as job creation in new industries, investing in basically what we mean here is that saying that transition to renewable energy is going to have like a big impact on the economy of any nation, because you're literally creating another industry. There's more job opportunities, there's more awareness, it brings a lot to the overall economy of any nation. I mean, we've seen it from a lot of nations, from Japan to Dubai. It's not as if it's possible, but then it's something that we can do as well. And then energy security. That's another thing we should look at. Adopting renewable energy enhances energy security by reducing reliance on imported fuels. I mean, Nigeria for instance, I think our main source of energy is still fossil fuel, and we can see what the over dependence on fossil fuel is doing to us. It diversifies the energy supply and minimizes the risk of price volatility with fossil fuel and fossil fuel markets. So what we're going to talk about the challenges now. Challenges exist in this transition. It's not easy, including technological advancements. Like a lot of third world countries are not ready for that. I made a case study about Japan, and the reason why the transition for Japan was easy is because they already had like insane technological advancement, more than we do. The infrastructure needs as well, and social acceptance. Addressing this obstacle is essential for a smooth shift to a sustainable energy future. So now we're going to talk about the global implication. The implication of this transition extend beyond environmental benefits. They affect global geopolitics, economy, and society. A renewable energy future can promote equity and sustainable development worldwide. So next slide. I think these are just numbers that we can look at. So future of the fossil fuel industry, global demand forecast. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about fossil fuel dependency. The overview, many countries rely heavily on fossil fuel for energy needs and economic growth. I mean, that's the ancient source of energy. That's what we've all known. Every country knows literally every country on earth, everybody started. This is their primary energy source. This dependency often leads to various economical, environmental, and socio-economical challenges. And the impact of this is that the reliance of fossil fuel can contribute to air pollution. We've said that before, greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. Countries face pressure to transition to renewable energy sources to reduce these impacts, especially third world countries, to be honest. And then the solution is that we need to adopt renewable energy technologies and policies that can reduce fossil fuel reliance. countries are exploring sustainable alternatives to combat climate change and promote energy independence. So we are going to talk about fossil fuel tech, like the impact of technology, how technology relates to fossil fuel. And the first thing is that the recent innovation in fossil fuel extractions have revolutionized the industry, optimizing processes and reducing environmental impact. What this means is that the traditional way of extracting fossil fuel sources have now advanced, because we already know the disadvantages on what this has done to our economy, especially like the agricultural sector. Some lands are not even like fertile to do much. So recent innovations in tech these days have reduced that impact, and techniques such as hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling are now standard practice. I don't know what that means, but it seems very cool. Processing technologies have also advanced, incorporating automation and AI to enhance efficiency and safety. Innovations like carbon capture and storage are pivotal in minimizing emissions from fossil fuel. That means after the drilling, you have to process them for them to get to final usage. So there are some technological advancements.
Moyo, can you hear me? Sorry to cut in. Please, can you speed up the presentation so that you can round up quickly? And
Okay. I think the last thing here is that engagement with digital technology like IoT is transforming infrastructure. So basically, there are now more technological advancement to reduce the negative impacts of fossil fuel in our economy. And so now we're going to summarize. Now we're going to take the key takeaway on fossil fuel. Fossil fuel remains the primary energy source. It's ancient, it's what we've known, is primary to most economies, but their environmental impact raises concerns for sustainability. And then the extraction of burning of fossil fuel contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. It's harmful to the environment. And then investments in alternate energy technology are crucial for reducing fossil fuel dependency. We've talked about this before. And by embracing innovation, we can foster a cleaner and more sustainable energy future for generations to come. And that's all we have from Group 1. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Moyo and Blessing, for that wonderful presentation. And thank you to all the group members of Group 1 that put together that presentation. It was nice, it was lovely, and it was well put together. So thank you to that group for making the effort to do that presentation. So please, we would like to have Group 2. Group 2, please, if you can, stick to time so that we can have feedback from our mentors, and then we can take questions. So quickly, Group 2, the time for presentation is now. All right, Group 2, can we?
Dennis, is it
Yes,
possible we have the response immediately so that we won't bring it to more people and our train of thoughts will be lost.
Okay, I think that's fine, sir, but you have both of your devices unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
All right, that's fine, sir. So please, we can have our mentors' feedback and then we'll go to Group 2's presentation. So Mr. Ayobami, let's take your feedback first.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. I think it's better now. Thanks. Yes. Sorry. I just thought it was much better we comment immediately so that I won't lose my train of thought, and I don't know if other mentors are okay with that. What made me smile was when she said the word and said that it looks cool, but she doesn't know what it means. I too don't know what it means. I know that to them, and okay, then we can help you out with what it means. And so, but also on the more serious part, I once had a presentation, and 2016 with the board of a multinational oil and gas firm. And had the word exemption for COREG. It's a term in maritime. And the MD of the company was about, please, can you explain what that word means? And I fluttered, so I also think it's important that if you're going to have any word in your slides, try and know the meaning, And the MD knew I didn't understand. All right, sorry. Yeah, the MD knew I couldn't understand, but he let it go. But the guy waited for me in the next meeting. I said, oh, this COREG exemption. But thank God I'd prepared myself so I could easily explain the technicality behind the coalition regulation. It's a maritime regulation, basically. So please try and have things you can explain in your slides because of questions. And yeah. Also, I noticed that the only ladies. I'm all for female empowerment, but I would have. I prefer. I think it's a. We have like 28 people on board, so I believe it should be, if possible, a male or a female. It would have made it a bit much better to me. I think. Yeah. So that we know that we have both genders there and give equal chances to both genders. Yeah. All in all, is a wonderful presentation. I would have preferred a sprinkle of law in it. Yes, I know it's a bit technical, and I also am keeping more of the law-related things for, I think, week 5 when we talk about contracting, disposition, regulatory compliance, and also climate. When we're talking about climate and renewables, I think there are quite some statutes and some laws and cases to discuss there. Yes. So I would expect when we're doing the works for those weeks to see more of legal terminologies, and because I believe most of the mentees are lawyers, if not all. So please, let's have a sprinkle of law that we're supposed to understand into it. Yes, and so that it would mean that we know that this is coming from a legal mind, basically. Yes. Also, like I always say every year, and I'll say this year again, I always prefer if the mentees go an extra mile and have references of where they're getting their sources of information from, for 2 good reasons. One, whenever you want to go back to your slide, you can easily know where you're getting it from, gain more knowledge on it. 2, just in case you're having an obsolete facts in your slide. So for example, you might be quoting someone that is 1978 and there's someone in 2024 that has a more updated knowledge of that thing. So if you now put in your slide like 2024 knowledge, then everybody shakes their head, because they know that, oh, they're quoting wrongly. So it's good to always have references of your sources, and I expect to see that in upcoming weeks. Yes. Also, you spoke a lot about the economy behind energy, and which is good. But there's something I call a big lie of the Western nations, and I think okay again. By the way, okay again. I was wondering. I said that I want GDP for my cutting of my hair, since it made reference to my hair. So if you drop some pounds from the UK, I think I'll cut my hair today. Yeah. On a more serious note, yeah. So the economy behind it, and I think okay again touched on it, is that these big nations keep talking about Africa not up to moving from non-renewable to renewable. But I think actually I want to mention is the fact remains is this. Yes, the economics of scales means that we depend a lot on fossil fuel. Yes, we do. That's the fact. We won't deny it. Yes, even though also it's down to a leadership issue whereby governments in Africa should learn to diversify off just one source of income. But it's what we have right now. And so if a Western nation or a international bodies coming and climbing in Africa that should change, then what happens to us? How do we survive as a country? How do we survive pending when we have a good leadership to diversify into other things? Secondly, the big lie here is that even though we do a lot of fossil fuel we're not the, like I think Etulam and okay touched on it, that we're not the party that creates the number of climate change decisions that to affect the climate as a whole, because our emissions is not as huge as countries like China, like US. So the fact remains is that when they say that they climb on Africa, the fact is that it does not being truthful to themselves, because Africa doesn't emit as much as these nations do. They have bigger industries, they have bigger economics, so they do more, they burn more of the fossil fuel energy. Yeah, like I initially said about Germany now, Germany has opened all their coal mines again. Why? Because they found out that, hey, winter is coming, will be cold though. You get my point? So choose one. Shut down the coal mine, not receiving gas from Russia anymore, and die out of cold. So sustainability, survival makes this happen. So the fact that the countries have to survive. So also Nigeria has to survive based on our fossil fuel. So yes, why we always preach renewables, cleaner climate, but we need to see more movement from these big nations also. You don't point a finger at Africa and tell us that we should do something. Why? Of course, unfortunately, you are actually emitting more. Yes. So that's just the round summary of the economy of scale. I think I should point out for the slide also. So in all, a fantastic presentation, and I hope the few corrections I have would subsequent 2 weeks would see that in play. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayobami, for your correction and your inputs. I'm sure our mentees are taking notes of that. So we'll be going to Mr. Etulam. Mr. Etulam, if you have feedback for Group 1, we would like to hear from you.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Etulam, we can hear you.
Okay, I think Mr. Yola has already said a lot about the presentation. For me, generally, quite an improved slides in the layout so far. Very good compared to before. Other mentees have seen in terms of presentation here on JIIPCC, and so far, much improvement done. Yola has already mentioned several aspects of it. For details, though, it's more of a global perspective. I like the idea, and also put into context in Nigeria, more of a technical background, just like the other mentor have said, in terms of put to mind that we are law graduates or law students and all of this, to be able to incorporate in terms of what it relates to the fossil fuel industry generally. Me, I'm not a lawyer, I'm more of a technical person. So sometimes when I say things, it's more on the technical and market aspect of it that I have the expertise on generally. So good slides, as much as possible again. The layout's good. Try to help in sourcing information that are relevant and current, and reduce amount of words in the slides, and better improvement. And also, what happened this year, like this quarter, this particular group just had about 2 people, or normally we have a lot of group members, both male and females. So to this period, this group is like just 1 or 2 people present, all of that.
We can't really hear you very clearly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
it's
now.
Better now. Okay.
Yes,
I think the network has been very slow. So what I was saying initially was that it is a very much more organized presentation compared to what I've seen before, in terms of the layout and structure. The group has done very well. Mosere and her group has done very well. And what I also say is that the previous mentor has been able to mention a lot in terms of what the slides and sources, and also the composition of the group matters. So for me, I don't want to say much, because we'll see how we need to go much faster to be able to have more time to delve into further contributions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Islam. Mr. Okeogene, are you with us, sir? Mr. Okeogene.
I think Okeogene is trying to make the transfer of the British pounds from her hair.
Maybe we can go to the next slide, the next group then.
All right. So please, it seems Mr. Okeogene is not here. So please, we'll be taking Group 2's presentation, and then if he's back with us, then we'll also hear from him. So please, can we have Group 2's presentation? Please, quickly. We want to get through with that quickly. Group 2, please, if you are here, your presentation. Don't we have any member from Group 2 who is going to be taking presentation on behalf of the group? Okay, not to waste any time waiting for Group 2 to take their presentation. I think we'll just be going straight to the question and answer segments, right? Since Group 2 seems not to be ready with their presentation, we'll be addressing that in their personal group chats. So please, Group 2 members, please kindly pay attention to that. We'll be having a discussion either later today or tomorrow about making presentation in class. So please, we'll be taking questions. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions, please?
Yes, good afternoon. I have a question.
Yes, good afternoon.
My name is Abdul Baki Jafar Suleiman. So
Yes.
on the topic fossil fuels, my question is this. Given the resolution passed by the 28th Conference of Parties, that is COP28 in Dubai, to the effect that fossil fuels globally should be phased down rather than being phased out, right? What happens to the global fossil market, and how does that affect developing countries? I would narrow it down to Nigeria.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdubaki. Ms. Ayobami, do you have an answer for that question?
So every year or every 2 years, we have this conference. Last one in 2021 was in Glasgow, I think, November 21. We have the Kyoto Protocol, that's United Nations framework on the Convention of Climate Change. We have the Paris Agreement, which Nigeria is British signatory to both, you know. So you have all this every year. And like I said just some minutes ago, there's always they come here, they gather together, and they speak well about climate change. But the issue is this: they start pointing fingers. Oh, Nigeria is not doing well, Africa is not doing well, you know. And who are these ones pointing fingers? Usually the big Western nations. And the fact remains is this: they emit more than we do. You know, so the fact remains is that how does this? Mine is, even in Nigeria too, we have the laws, we have the Climate Change Act, we have the PIA Act, we have everything. But all this is more on paper. What is being done to move action-wise is always the question. Now, how do you say Nigeria should stop emission? How do you say we stop doing these things if we don't have things in place to cushion the effect? You know, how do we do that? That's the question. So it's always a fact that the whole aim is to make it better. Yes, like I said, these conferences are good. They bring fact, they bring figures, but the action is the problem. You know, you can Google the Paris Agreement. It's a fantastic agreement. You know, to reduce dependency of fossil fuel and all these things. But hey, the reality is this: it's the reality between a document framework and the reality on ground. FX loss, and a lot. So, and again, I think when the big players in the world start looking inwards and improving, and the good news is that these big players also, like the EU, and the EU has a 20 to 35 time frame. We in Nigeria have a 2030, and we have a 2050 or 2060, that whereby we have to cut down our greenhouse gases to zero emission. So, but like I said, Nigeria, I don't see us physically, action-wise, going towards it. So yes, it's a good conference, but the fact remains is that our hands are tied, basically, based on our over-reliance on that for our economy. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayobami, for helping us with that question. And thank you, Abdubaki, for also stepping in to ask questions. So please, we're still taking questions. If we have more mentees who have questions as regards this particular class, you can go ahead and ask. We have a question on the chat box that was asked during the
same question.
Oh, all right. So the question here is, okay, yeah, okay, it's the same question. All right, please, do we have more people with questions?
Okay. Well, let me just add up to that in terms of what I may have said already, Barrister himself. Generally, for this question, that given the resolution passed by the 28th Conference of Parties, which was held in Dubai last year to effect the fossil fuel phase down. So generally, it's in terms of context, when we look at the idea, oh, phase out, it's just like people, more Greenpeace and some of these right wing, I would say, left wing groups, like, oh no, stop fossil fuel. But sometimes I just ask the people that are holding that banner, like, what's it made of? The ink that is used, the cloth they're putting on, what's it made of? From where? How? I mean, so let's be realistic. You will have people go to parliament in the UK, or the cases in Hague, like held in front of UN headquarters, and say, oh, stop. Funny enough, COP29 is going to be coming up again. I think it should be in Baku, or is it Azerbaijan or something like this. It's coming up. And these agreements are coming up, and we all agree that fossil fuels at some point we need to transition away. Most, like the African Energy Chamber, is actually pushing for what will have what we call a just transition, whereby Nigeria in particular and other African nations that contribute less emissions to global climate emissions is that we have these fossil fuels. Let's use it temporarily for our benefits while we transit to renewables. So the impact in terms of developing economies are going to be like this. We are saying that if we are going to phase out fossil fuels, I got some data recently. I think this should be from the International Energy Agency, that we will require about $3.5 trillion annually globally to be able to, within 2021 to 2050, to be able to phase out in terms of fully grow into a fully transitioned renewable economy globally. I mean, who is going to bring these investments? It's from the developed countries. How much does Africa, Nigeria have? We are even struggling to even find crude oil for Dangote refinery for our own petroleum consumption. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that we will leave, we will just abandon, face down. It's a harsh statement, but being supported by some left-wing groups that in support of this. So one is that the one impact globally is going to be a shift in investments. There's going to be a push away from fossil fuel investments to renewables. Berkeley, an international, I think we can be able to say that it's the most international banks are actually bringing out that, oh, we are not going to be financing or investing into fossil-based projects in Africa, in the Middle East, BlackRock. The idea of ESG, environment, sustainability, and governance, that has to do with all of this global impact. Now, we had some companies that are actually wind-based companies, some projects that are not being profitable. And the former CEO of BP, and sometime when he came up and he was pushing green agenda for British Petroleum, and they ended up in, if you took out their annuals started going down, and there are some troubles, and they left. The current CEO of BP, British Petroleum, is there focusing. Even Shell is redirecting strategy in terms of transitioning from being fossil based to renewable. But now they're looking at, okay, we are losing money, and shareholders are after the money. It's not only about climate, but we need money in business. Oil and gas, renewables, every company need money. So it's going to impact on this. There'll be shift in investment if phasing out fossil fuel is going to come into play. Like in Nigeria now, part of what is happening is that oil and gas operations have brought about some pollution and the oil theft, all of this. Shell is divesting onshore assets they've been operating for years. I've said this before, like I think 2022 or 2023, no, 2022, there are some issues that were raised in the Shell board meeting, the annual general meeting in England, where some parties were saying, no, we cannot continue to operate in carbon intensive societies. So for Nigeria, in terms of, let's say, how does this affect developing countries, this phase down, it's going to be that there's going to be shift in economic disruption. We are fossil-based economy. And if we don't diversify in terms of agriculture and other things, it's going to affect government budgets. I mean, Nigeria, anytime we sit down, we want to do new budgets, we calculate in terms of the cost per barrel. This is what is being put into the budget to calculate. So if nobody is ready to buy the crude oil that we produce in the nearest future, what are we going to do? It means that we don't have money to finance our capital budget and infrastructure development within the state. Our trade balance, a lot of foreign exchange is being earned by crude oil and fossil. So it means that our trade balance is going to be affected, overall economics, our GDP will be impacted. So these are the kind of things that are facing out fossil fuels will impact on countries, developing countries. Let's see about considerations like electricity generation. It's going to impact if can we leap from gas to just solar. I mean, the adoption of solar in Nigeria is growing fast, but we think that for me is that in terms of energy density and reliability of supplies, the grid, I mean, we need a lot to do. There's a lot of investment to do. And we cannot be able to be calling for the developed nations that are saying, oh, face out. How much money are they going to cough out to be able to invest? The UN has proposed sometime that about more than $100 billion, I think it should be invested in Africa for renewables. Joe Biden came up with some of the acts from the US concerning the Power Africa initiatives. It started either Joe Biden or Obama, I can't remember, but they have this power from the US, Power Africa initiative for renewables and all of this. The electricity, I think the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria is also doing much in terms of mini grids. Well, for a sustained grid to be able to be reliable and efficient and be able to run our electricity, if we phase out fossil fuel, we will have strong impact. Like Nigeria said, it depends on gas a lot. So how are we going to do that? It will we need strong infrastructural development in place. Affordability is very key. I mean, energy access, Africa is energy poor. I mean, I was listening to BBC this morning that the Ofgem, which is a RICO regulator on top of this, is because of the increase, there's an increase in energy bill about £147 for the winter season for the UK. I'm not in the UK, I'm actually in Nigeria, but I saw this. And many analysts, even the energy minister for labor, are saying that, oh, this is going to be harsh on the population. And I mean, the government need to come into place. Either they're going to stop this increase or. So these are the kinds of effects we'll be having as developing nations. So financing, capacity building in terms of renewable and also infrastructure being in place. One of the presenters they mentioned talk about Japan and how they are advanced in terms of technology and also infrastructure development. We as developing nations, if this is phased out, if this is put into place, we are going to suffer. And who is going to help us in investment in this? So the call is this: when you call for COP 29, 28 for phase out, then be ready to support the developing nations to be able to adapt to these new policies and group 2. Okay, I'm seeing that group 2 is ready for presentation. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we would have been taking Group Two's presentation now, but we have another session that will be starting by 2, right? So I don't think it will be possible to have Group Two's presentation now. So please, I would like to say that coming up to the next session, please, Group Two, please, you should prepare when it is time for your presentation so that you can take it when you are supposed to. So please, we'll find a better way to improve the mechanism around class so that we get to stick to our presentations, make them when we ought to, and then we have a better interactive session. So thank you, Group 2, for eventually suggesting that, but we'll not be able to take a presentation for this particular class. I think before we end today's call, please, I would like to ask everyone to turn on their videos so that we can take a quick screenshots of the members who have participated in this class and for our social media posting. Thank you so much, Mr. Etulam. Thank you so much, Mr. Yobami. Abdubaki, thank you also. Please, can we have more mentees turn on their videos so that we can take a quick screenshot? Okay, thank you, Blessing. All right, one moment, please. Okay, I'll be taking another one. I've taken the first one. So, all right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Etulam. Thank you so much to Mr. Yobami and Mr. Kyogene in absential. It has been a wonderful and an interactive session. I'm sure in this 2 hours plus time that we've had, our mentors have been able to cover us through a whole scope of subject matter that 2 hours will not be able to cover. So thank you to our mentors for helping us pull through for today. We look forward to seeing you in subsequent sessions and in subsequent quarters. Thank you so much for everything that you do for JIIPCC, and thank you to our mentees. So with that, we've come to the end of today's session. I look forward to seeing everyone in class next week. Goodbye and enjoy the rest of your day.